so everyone sees that you can have a nice dialogue. But I'll give you sort of a vague exclusive on your podcast.
Okay.
I had an incident that I talked about on my podcast that I had to take down because people weren't understanding it. And actually feminists and male feminists were coming at me, and I was like, it's nuanced. So I talked about an experience I had with a male comic from about 10 years ago.
Sure.
Who said something kind of creepy to me. In no way physically violated my space. I did not see his body parts. He did not corner me. It was just a couple creepy incidents. And this person is a friend. I dare not call them a peer anymore because they were very successful, but he was sort of not a mentor, but in a few times took me aside and said, go further with that bit, or I encourage you to do the comedy clubs. Don't just stay in the alternative rooms, whatever. Great person, whatever. I lost touch with him, whatever. But I was like, God, those moments were so creepy. Just the words that, but it was fine. It was one of those things where it's like, I told other people about it because we were laughing about it.
Did you say what the words were? Did people understand what the words were?
I think I said, no, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't remember. But, when I talk to other comics about it, as we all talk about each other, it's for funny reasons. Like, hey, did you hear this perv did this? And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha. Like, that's okay. So
was it in the vein of, I'm going to do something to you, or I want you to do something? I mean, like, what did you feel at the time? Were you scared? Like, what?
No, not scared at all. Just more annoyed. The way that, like, women, that's what I was trying to say when I later talked about it. Like, there's certain things where you're, like, hanging out with someone, and then you're like, oh, shoot, they're going to creep on me for a second.
Right.
And then as a woman, you can go, hey, no. And they're like, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, bummer, you creep me out. But then I have to take into consideration, do I want to go on tour with this person, for example?
Sure.
Probably not.
Right.
Just because I don't want to have to deal. Are they going to rate me? God, no. I just don't want to have to deal with the, you have a drink after the show. Hey, so want to make out? No. Like a puppy dog, like, get away.
Right,
no.
right.
But I just don't want to have to do that all the time. So it's like, for sometimes being a woman is like an extra thought in your day. Like, do I need a sweater? And, like, that's it. And that's what I was trying to explain. Like, it's not always like, I'm uncomfortable. I was whatever. So I talked about it 10 years later on my podcast recently because I was in Australia and people were reviewing my show before I even performed it. And I was being called a dirty comic.
What?
And I was like, what? And I was like, I'm not at all. And then every interview was like, what's it like being a woman in comedy? And I was like, I said I did like a press thing where I was like, I will not answer that question because it's just never funny.
Right.
And then you're talking to someone who doesn't know you, and then that becomes the headline. Jen Kirkman says it's hard sometimes. I'm like, oh, forget it. So I decided to just talk about it on my podcast. I was like, here's what it's really like to be a woman in comedy. You have friends, and sometimes they're creepy, and and they're really successful. And then you get mad because you're like, I'm getting reviews that I'm a dirty comic, and I'm not dirty in real life. And like, why? Somebody said, like, go to her show at your own risk. It's not for everyone. Wasn't everyone's comedy not for everyone?
Right.
So I was just getting mad. I'm like, in that way, it's sexist. Like, I'm the nicest person. I'm not dirty, blah, blah, blah. And so, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I was like, listen, I know this comedian. And it's kind of obvious who I was talking about. I'm like, he said this, he said that. I don't even know if I said what he said, but I was like, and I know there's all these rumors about him, and I talked to my managers and agents, and I'm like, people always ask me questions about him in the press, and I'm like, I'm not going to say anything because it would ruin my career. Now, what I meant by ruin my career is if I have only so much space in a small press article, and that's what I talk about, people will hate me. People that...
Oh, they're gonna pick the dramatic angle rather than talk about you as a performer.
Yeah, and so I'm like, it would ruin my career in the sense that I have a Netflix special coming out of this and that. If I'm talking about like dudes who are creepy once in a while, that's what people are going to be like, what a dick she is, or I've never heard of her. She's trying to take this person down. And in all this Bill Cosby drama going on,
Sure.
people just go, everyone's Bill Cosby. I'm like, that was a psychopath.
Right.
This is like, so anyway, I talked about that on my podcast, and Jezebel picked it up and made it a blind item. Did Jen Kirkman call out so-and-so? And then added all these other rumors. So it sounded like the rumors of this guy were things that I said he did. And I'm like, I had already dealt with him one-on-one as a human. Like,
I wonder if they did that because they knew people would click on the article.
Chris, I didn't want to be cynical.
No.
I think they wanted to know.
Yeah.
Now, why don't you think they emailed me directly? They probably thought I was busy,
got busy.
Right?
They thought you were busy.
Yeah.
They weren't, they probably heard that you don't like small talk. And so they were like, Jen was in customer service. We understand everything about her because we've done a thorough background check.
Yeah.
And what matters to us the most is understanding and telling the right
truth.
Story and getting to the bottom of the truth and not just, so I'm sure it was probably just that. They just thought you were busy.
So they do that. And I'm like, getting hate mail now. Anyway, but me and this person had a conversation months ago. And that person on their own was like, yeah, I was kind of a creep. I go, you are a creep. That's who you are. And God bless you. But that is something that was staying in me for a while. And I was having resentment about other things. And so I talked about you on my podcast because I was just in a resentful mood. And I was just like, blah, sometimes people are creepy. And I go, but you know what? So we talked and then, that was it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm fine because I was never violated. Never. It didn't cost me any career stuff. I was never violated. I was just like bummed. Like it's like one less person that I trust.
Yeah.
That's it. And that person knows it. I was like, I would totally have coffee with you. I do also think you're a creep. So I'd probably leave. And he was laughing and we were fine. So then Jezebel does all this shit and, guessing who they think it is, which I never said who, putting all this shit. I started getting like hate mail, all this stuff. And then like, you're not talented. Why do you got to take this person down? Then then I took the podcast down because they were directing people to it. Oh. So then Jen Kirkman mysteriously takes down thing. And they're like, he's silencing her, whoever this man they think it is. And then all these people started emailing me. And I was just so angry. I go, fuck you. And they go, we can print this. I go, print it, you fucking cunts. So I'm like, here's a feminist saying that to a feminist blog, but it was bothering me. And so then, finally, long story short, so now men are picking up on it and good men and God bless them. But they're tweeting at me, why won't you come forward? You say you're strong. Just suck it up and do it. And I'm like, ooh, see, you're not quite getting feminism right.
Because they're basically, well, that's the thing that I don't. And first of all, everyone knows you're talking about Gallagher.
Yeah.
But she's not talking about Gallagher.
It's
don't
not
pick
Gallagher.
that up. But I'm often
it's Gallagher too.